Welcome back. This is Inside Politics here on KTN News. Counties will have to contend with the 316 billion shillings recently that was touted or was allocated by the National Assembly. This is after President Uhuru Kenyatta pronounced that his government will not add even an extra coin to the shareable revenue to the counties. The president was speaking in Nakuru when he officially opened the newly refurbished Nakuru County Assembly chambers.
For 2 months, governors have been an angry lot, demanding allocation of at least 335 billion shillings for the counties. This being 19 billion shillings above the 316 billion figure floated by the National Assembly and which has ignited a separate fight between members of parliament and senators, who, siding with the governors, drafted a separate division of revenue bill, setting the figure at 335 billion shillings. But speaking after opening the refurbished Nakuru County Assembly chambers, the president said counties will not get even an extra coin.
We cannot give that which does not exist. Let us take what we have. Ikiongezeka itaongeza. Lakini jamani, let us just take what we have. What are we arguing about? Because kama imekuwepo, si tungewapatia.
21 counties are yet to pay their workers, even as strikes by county government workers began in a number of devolved units. This occasioned by the delayed disbursement of county funds. As Parliament is yet to enact the division of revenue bill, there is mandatory to unlock revenue to the counties. But the president wants governors to turn their energies towards prudent management of public funds sent to the counties, urging county governments to improve their own revenue collection to finance their budgets.
Because this is the spirit that we should all have. How can we work together? How can we pool the limited resources? Because resources are not unlimited, they are limited. But how can we utilize those resources in the best manner possible?
The president commissioned this 230 million shillings Ugatuzi Plaza at the assembly.
Anamtuza rais alama ya uongozi.
51 years after his father, the founding president Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, inaugurated it as the Central Rift County Council chambers and the office complex, in what was then touted as a move to cement the regional Majimbo system of government. The Majimbo system was, however, abolished in 1974, and the Central Rift County Council disbanded, followed by the formation of the Nakuru Council. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News.
So the standoff continues even as crises in various counties continue to loom. Rosalie, let me begin with you. What is going to happen here? Parliament has to be recalled, right?
According to the Attorney General's advice to Parliament, Parliament is now on recess and the two houses have to reconvene. The speakers have to recall the houses to come and deliberate on this bill, because remember, he cited two issues. He talked about the issue of the consolidated fund and he also talked about the revenue fund. Both of them require a legislation to allow money to be appropriated.
Right.
In this case, we don't have a Division of Revenue Act that allows us to appropriate money from the consolidated fund. So even as now the National Assembly purports that the national government can allocate money, they passed the Appropriations Act, but remember the Appropriations Act is based on the Division of Revenue Act that we currently don't have. The same situation faces the counties where they need the county allocation of revenue for them to appropriate. Some counties have been passing their budgets, but now they're basing them on what? There was a conversation in the Senate that if you look at the Public Finance Management Act, then they will have used that to appropriate money based on the last division of revenue. But the legal minds have actually advised them that there is a lacuna in law. There is nowhere that they can use that because that bill has actually lapsed. So they cannot use that to allow counties to appropriate money. So when the Senate convened a meeting last week where they called the acting National Treasury CS, they called the control of budget, they also called the AG to just come and see how do they address this issue, as Parliament is supposed to deliberate on the second division of revenue that again is now going for mediation. But they were told there was no way that they were able to appropriate this money, because even if it goes to the counties, the governors cannot appropriate money without the approval of the county assemblies. And even if it is the approval of the county assemblies, where do they base the allocation at? Because once the division of revenue has been passed, the County Allocation of Revenue Act has been passed, then we have the cash disbursement schedule that now shows us that from June to July of the next financial year, this is what each county is entitled to. So the debate has been, do we appropriate at 210, which was read in the budget, or do we put it at 316, which is what is now in the proposed law? But there is a conversation that whichever way it is, we still don't have an actual figure that separates between the national government and county.
So the bill is in mediation. What happens if there is no consensus?
If the two parties, the representatives from both houses fail to agree, again the bill will be defeated. So if it is negative, then again we go back to the drawing board again. They will have again to publish another division of revenue.
Chumba, is this a legal or a political problem?
I think on this one I will tend to side with the Supreme Court. When we put a lot of legalese around political questions, we end up having absurd outcomes. And such a question as this is purely a political question. And I believe that we ought to have gotten it right from the word go. But I take refuge in the fact that this is the right battles for Kenyans to entertain. These are the battles that widen our constitutional jurisprudence. They are the battles that test each and every word of the letter of the Constitution. So it is a good fight to have. But what we must now go back to is that, when you fight for so long, other things start going the other way. We must ask ourselves, as we go to the second negotiation, or the committee, the bicameral committee, we must ask ourselves, this is the time now when we need the leadership from Uhuru Kenyatta as the president to sit down with this committee and broker some kind of truce, because speaking tough won't help. Where we have reached, this is a dispute that has been brewing for a while, and he was mum on it. Going forward, what we need to do is each one of the two houses, both Senate and the National Assembly, must be willing to ease a bit for us to move forward. But going forward, again, there is something we need to ask ourselves. When you look at the costings of at least 4 ministries, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Devolution, Ministry of Agriculture, and the Ministry of Roads, there are costings there which touch directly the county. My question has always been, why don't we move these functions to the county so that we avoid duplicity? Because in duplicity, we lose some money. Ask yourself, why do we have a lot of budget going to health, and we know health has a devolved function? The only facilities that remain are around 4.
All right.
So I think going forward, what we need to do also is we need to, the Kimani Ichung'wah-led committee needs to come up now with an act of parliament to remedy the lacuna in law that has been exposed by the tussle. But if that is not done, we will end up having another referendum from governors and senators. You can take it from...
Mark, what is your prediction? Who's going to budge here?
I think
who has to budge?
I think Senate is in a weaker position, in the sense that if it budges, then it can never claw back its prestige. So for Senate, it's more likely to dig in its heels. The Parliament, on the other hand, has to ask itself, the National Assembly has to ask itself whether they want a partnership with the Senate or they want to ignore the Senate. And as Kipchumba has correctly said, this is a constitutional moment for this country. This is what I mean. If today National Assembly is able to browbeat Senate, then I can tell you for free, Senate will be more irrelevant for the next foreseeable future until the cows come home, if they ever come home. Because the truth of the matter is the space within which they're trying to operate has been so squeezed by the National Assembly. This is literally their last bastion. This is the last chance they have. So the question has to be, will the National Assembly be magnanimous enough to say, for the sake of expanding the democratic space, for the sake of giving Senate relevance, will we acquiesce and give them some of the control and power they're looking for? Because this is not about 15, 20 billion shillings. This is about the role of Senate and the role of National Assembly, and
So
Senate asserting itself.
So you're saying this is all about chest thumping and that Kenyans lose either way, because from what I've heard from the National Assembly, they do not look like they are going to be magnanimous in anything.
And that's the question, because for me, it's not a question of chest thumping. It's a question of, when we wrote the Constitution, we created an upper house with lower house powers. In other words, Senate was quote unquote supposed to be the upper house of Kenya and a checkmate for Parliament, but Parliament has shown that it can bypass Senate on everything, on health, on agriculture, on a lot of things. So the real question here is, what is the role of Senate in this country moving forward? The other question that exists is the question of what is the fundamental philosophy around devolution. Because the idea for many people is, if the budget for national government has gone up, then naturally the budget for county governments should go up. That is the imagination for a lot of people. But the question then remains and portends that for national government, what is beneficial to you? That you should keep a lot of the functions with you and then limit how county governments work so that they remain within your control? Or should you empower county governments more? Kipchumba has mentioned something that is critical. Why do we still have a huge budget at national level for agriculture and health and other things? And why aren't those resources vastly distributed?
Could it be about capacity in the counties?
It could be about capacity. It could be about the ability to absorb this money. It's all of those things. But you see, those questions then ask the question of what is our fundamental belief around devolution. Because if our fundamental belief was that devolution must be empowered, then national government should have traded in its staff and its capacities in those regions, to those regions, for them to be able to handle it. So that's the key question. What is the marriage between national government and county governments? How is it going to look going forward? Those are the issues that are going to make or break our nation moving forward.
When you listen to the President Dismas, he says the Constitution says 15% at least. He says his government has been given around 30%, so he's good. Is good from where he stands. What is your take on that argument?
That argument is very solid from 3 different levels. When you speak to lawyers knowledgeable in this matter, they'll tell you this is not a legal issue. It's not even a constitutional issue. That's why Justice Maraga and company have said, take the ball to where it belongs. It's not a political issue, because the president is from Jubilee, the leadership of the Senate is from Jubilee, from the National Assembly is from Jubilee. So again, you can't claim that it's politics, maybe NASA or ODM is pulling in a different direction. This is simply a leadership crisis that has gotten refugee in a cash flow situation. And the governors are to blame themselves. For the longest time, the members of the Senate and National Assembly have been telling governors, let's have conversations on a regular basis on how we are supposed to manage county affairs. But for some reason, the governors have become demigods. They don't listen to senators. They don't listen to members of the National Assembly. If the governors had a very solid working relationship with the members of the National Assembly, then this would not be an issue. All those members who are in the committee, in the budget committee, say Kimani Ichung'wah, I wonder whether Kimani Ichung'wah has had a meeting with Governor Waititu, although Governor Waititu is not supposed to be in office. I wonder whether Governor Ongwae has got a meeting with Honorable Richard Onyonka in the committee. Because if they had regular structured meetings, then this would not be an issue. Now, when the National Assembly and Senate then go back to the governors and say, we want some sort of accountability, all these monies you collect from your counties, where do these monies go? All these counties, Nairobi, Kisii, Mombasa, they collect a lot of resources, but these monies disappear somewhere. And most governors are resisting digital payments because, at that stage, then you'll be able to track resources. So what would they do? In the morning, they give some fake paper receipts, and, the resources disappear.
Right.
Now, that is the elephant in the room.
So they need to account for what they are doing first.
They need to account for what they're doing first, and I'll tell you for a fact, because I've had a moment of having intellectual intercourses with members of the National Assembly, and they've indicated in black and white they're going to have the last laugh. The members of the Senate can jump, shout themselves hoarse, nothing is going to happen. The governors would even do demonstration, walk in Nairobi naked, nothing is going to happen.
So that is also a leadership crisis.
It's a very solid leadership crisis.
Right.
The members of the National Assembly...
Wait, Roslyn, you don't agree with the arguments the president is pushing?
Actually, from the start, I had Dismas saying that he agrees with the president that the argument is solid. Remember, the basis of allocation, even in the current allocation, is based on 2013-2014 audited accounts. We are in 2019. So when you tell us that the Constitution talks about at least 15%, yes, that is what the Article 203 says. But are we, but are we giving the counties the rightful share? If you look at the Constitution, we only had 3 years to transit to devolve function to counties, and that was a period that the transitional, defunct transitional authority did their work. But if you look at Schedule 4 of the allocations to county governments and the national government, there are those functions that are assigned to counties that the national government is still holding to. And the law says resources follow functions. So there are those functions that have actually been devolved, which Kipchumba was talking about, like the roads. Health is fully devolved. Now, when we have over 90-something billion remaining at the national level, and we are giving counties pure peanuts, and then we are saying that actually we want counties to manage their functions. How will they manage their functions when level 5 hospitals are under counties, the 12 level 5 hospitals, yet they are not getting resources commensurate to those functions they are given? Now, when he talks about protracted wars between the Senate and the National Assembly, from the word go, this is not a war that we are starting now. The division of revenue was the first to ever be decided by the Supreme Court in 2013. And they said both houses have a say on the bill. Now, when you say that the National Assembly will have the last laugh, counties, one of the functions, core functions of the Senate is to ensure the interest of counties are catered for. Right. So the interest means ensuring they're properly resourced to be able to handle their functions. Now, when you staffle the funds, then you tell them, discharge your functions. How will they discharge these functions? And let us not fly around with the issues of corruption, because we also have corruptions in the national government. So when we talk about not raising enough resources in the counties as a basis of denying counties funds, then we are lying to each other, because currently counties are having own resource revenue, but that money you cannot appropriate at source. You have to bank it in the county revenue fund, so that you write again to the control of budget to be able to appropriate that money. So when you talk about counties not being able to be accountable, we are lying to each other. Remember, we also have this committee, the Intergovernmental Technical Relations Committee. This is a committee that is supposed to actually implement not only decisions of the summit where the president sits, but all functions that are affecting counties. Where do we have this committee? It's not working. Yeah.
I think just one.
Kipchumba, and then give me your predictions. What's going to happen here? Very quickly, a minute on.
Well, I think it will be unfair, but I want to react to something that Dismas said, that it's not supposed to go on record, or it should not go unchallenged at the least. When we cheer on the National Assembly as it devours anything and everything that we have erected in the land, we are not better than them. What we need to do is that we must remain within the four corners of the law. And the four corners of the law envision that the division of revenue bill, the one concerning counties, will be the business, or Senate will have a role in it. We cannot just say because the National Assembly has emancipated some other institutions, we want it to devour the Senate and we cheer it on. No, we might have ambitions of joining that house, but we must call it out as we are here. Going forward, the services the counties offered, and it is very very funny because most people, when you interact with most elite in this country, they think corruption is only at the county level. What we need to see is when we are talking about corruption and resource allocation, we need to fight for resources to go to the counties. When we fight for resources to go there, we now go to counties and fight the corrupt. We should not fight counties just because we have corrupt individuals. Then we should also fight the national government because
you have
corrupt people are there.
the national.
Just need 30 seconds.
Yes.
It is quite erroneous for us to argue about allocation of funds based on corruption, because the people who voted in these governments expect services.
Yes.
Whether you think these people are corrupt or not, it is the duty of parliament to provide those resources for which the people voted. So to bring in the conversation of corruption, then why do we still fund NYS? Why do we still fund dams and water projects? You understand? It's a very ludicrous statement. Let me tell you, if your child steals sugar, do you stop buying sugar in the house? Let's not apply kindergarten logic here. Let's be very logical. Governments must continue to function. Even Waititu, when he's out of office, Kiambu must get money. The people who've been accused of murder, their counties should also get money. Money and the behavior of people are different. That's why we have a police force. You understand? And corruption is not the kind of thing that you can predict. So my question is, if you remove 25 billion shillings, will you have made the governors more accountable?
Right.
If you give them less 25 billion shillings, will they be less corrupt? What logic are you talking about here?
This must have the final say. Mark has talked about kindergarten logic.
Yes, and that's very interesting. Now, when you look at Kenya's budget, we are talking about 3 trillion. The money in contention is 16 billion. So if you just do an equidistance, it comes to 350 million. Now, that's a demonstration of a leadership crisis. That 340 million per county can create this standstill. And this is simply a cash flow situation which has been catalyzed by a leadership crisis. Because, the solution is very simple. Accept what has been brought to the table, and then in the next 3 months, have a supplementary budget. But the senators and governors don't want to dance to this. That's why they're running away from this. And then the lawyers, maybe Kipchumba has got a different view. But his own colleagues have indicated to me that this is not a legal issue. It's not a constitutional issue. That is why Justice Maraga doesn't want to tie his hands. He said, go back and talk. And then when you're talking about the distributing resources, you have to come in and address the issue of corruption, whether it's a kindergarten issue, whether it's a voodoo logic, but money is getting lost at both the national and county levels. Now we have a unique opportunity as we give resources to the governors to start asking ourselves, is it right that if money was being lost at a national level, then we give a blind eye to the counties?
Okay.
So, you may term it whatever kind of logic it is, but resources are being lost, and now we have a unique opportunity as we are giving resources to anybody, be it national government or county government, to ask for accountability. It's not a kindergarten logic to ask a county government that you have these, you've been collecting 100 million, and then you're only remitting 50 million. Where is the 50 million going to?
Okay.
If Mora in the village is told that that's kindergarten logic, she'll get very nervous.
But we need to sort expenditure at the source. We do not need to harm the counties, but what we need to do, get a law and work on expenditure at the source.
See, when you're asking for accountability, the law clearly states that at the end of every financial year, records shall be handed over to the Auditor General. And
So accountability should not be basis for...
So when you say you want them to be accountable, when those processes are already happening, that's what I call
All eyes will be on the Parliamentary Mediation Committee on this Division of Revenue Bill 2019. Parliament is set to be recalled to for Kenya, see if there will be some white smoke on this. Let's take another quick commercial break here on Inside Politics. On KTN News, don't go anywhere. We are back with some geopolitical issues. We'll take a look at the Kenya-Somalia maritime border dispute that has seen the two neighboring nations, Kenya and the Horn of Africa nation, trading threats, being told to come back to the drawing table, even as the presidential election of Jubaland is looming, and as well that ruling in hearing by the International Court of Justice over the matter. Don't go too far.
kulikuwa na picha imepigwa na watu wale wanataka kuwa president wamewekwa kando moja na deputy president amewekwa kando ingine, mwanaume mmoja na wengine sijui 6. Lakini pia deputy president walisahau kuweka picha yangu huko kwa sababu hata mimi mwezi huu nilisema kwamba 2022 nitakuwa katika kinyang'anyiro. I don't know whatever it is called. I will be on the ballot. Na Wakenya wengi wamesema niingie huko, na nilikuwa nasema nitaenda kuchunga wajukuu, lakini vile vile hata mimi niko huko, tutakutana huko.